We're here facing another string of shootings, folks. This is terrible news, and we hate to bring it to you, but the left turns back to their favorite talking point. We just saw it in the last hour. Yet when drugs or illegal immigration are the issue, the left always looks beyond the person and wants to just absolutely take away the unit, the tool that they're using.
The gunfire by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is actually the thing. People just don't seem to understand that this is an underlying culture. There is a lack of concern and a lack of ability to understand the value of life in our society today. And I think it's been taken away by the fact that we are the most prosperous nation in the world, yet we are the first people to complain about not enough milk in our latte.
Right, and like there weren't warning signs, especially with these last two shootings, just absolutely horrific that they could have been prevented, making it all the more tragic. For more on this, let's welcome in the host of Bearing Arms podcast, Cam Edwards.
Cam, appreciate you being here, buddy.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, so if banning guns stops crime, why is there so much gun crime where they ban guns?
Especially in those blue cities with the strictest gun laws.
Yeah, well, it's because, Carl, this might come as a shock to you, but criminals, generally speaking, don't obey laws, right? So all of these gun control laws that are aimed at law-abiding citizens don't really have an impact on violent criminals. And sadly, what we've seen in a couple of these high-profile shootings, the one in Charlottesville, Virginia, and then the one in Colorado Springs, this wasn't a failure of gun control, right? It wasn't that we didn't have enough gun laws on the books. We didn't have enough prosecutors, apparently. We didn't have judges because both of these individuals were facing felony charges at various points not too long ago, and those charges were either dismissed outright in the case of the Colorado Springs suspect. That case was sealed. We still don't know what was going on there. But in the case of the Charlottesville shooter, his felony hit-and-run plea or a felony hit-and-run charge was dropped down to a misdemeanor. He ended up getting a suspended sentence. If he had gone to trial and been convicted, he would have been prohibited under federal law from purchasing a firearm. But instead, we have these soft-on-crime prosecutors who continually offer plea deals to even violent offenders. And then the gun control advocates claim, that the answer is to put even more laws on the books. Why aren't we enforcing the existing laws against violent crime that are already in place?
Right.
So, Cam, that's an excellent point. So the Club Q shooter as well as the Walmart shooter, they both had prior felonies on their records. And if it had not been for these soft-on-crime Democratic policies, then they wouldn't have been able to carry out those mass shootings, correct?
From what I understand about the shooter in Chesapeake, Virginia, he did not have a criminal record, but the suspect of the UVA shootings in Charlottesville, because unfortunately Virginia has had two high-profile shootings in the past few days, that individual had been arrested, actually on multiple occasions, once for carrying a concealed firearm without a license. That's the misdemeanor crime in Virginia. But the other was a felony hit-and-run charge that was dropped down to a misdemeanor and ultimately resulted in a suspended sentence. So there was really no punishment whatsoever. Yeah. In the case of the Chesapeake shooter, it looks like this guy was not prohibited by law. But again, there were warning signs, right? You had employees, you had coworkers saying this guy was angry, he was disturbed. But I don't know that there was any sort of prohibiting factor that would have, denied him the ability to purchase a firearm.
So, Cam, every week on your podcast, which is fantastic, by the way, actually every day on your podcast, you do the recidivist report where you talk about somebody who committed a gun crime, who shouldn't have had a gun in the first place, but they had these soft on crime things. I want to talk about one thing. In the last hour, we had a Democrat on, which we appreciate coming on to give their point of view, but they talked about, people have the right to life. So therefore, we should ban guns on the basis of that. I say, well, what about my right to life in my defense of myself?
And I think you're right, Carl. I mean, look, here's the thing, and you pointed this out. We've seen cities in this country ban firearms, right? Washington, D.C. had a ban on handguns in effect from 1977 until 2008. And by the way, the murder rate in Washington, D.C., far higher during those years than it is even today, when people are allowed, at least in theory, to not only own but carry a firearm for self-defense. Just look at what, we hear this argument all the time, more guns equals more crime. Well, if that were the case, then crime in this country would be going up every single year because there are millions of firearms that are sold every year. Instead, what we saw is from 1991 until 2020, violent crime in this country dropped by more than 50%. It was at 50-year lows, and then we had the pandemic, we had the George Floyd riots, we had, criminals being released out on the streets. That kind of screwed things up. But for 50 years, we've had more guns and less crime in this country.
Yeah, not to mention Plano, Texas is the gun capital of the world. It's in Texas.
And by the way, that the gay club shooter, the Club Q shooting, that guy, nobody wants to talk about his background. His mother has been in and out of jail. His father is an obvious meth head. Is that okay to say? Am I allowed to say that? Okay, yeah. He's a drug addict, a former porn star, all of these family issues going on in and out. Nobody wants to talk about that contributing to what he did, his psychotic episode where he killed these innocent people. They just want to blame the tool, and that's what's so frustrating.
Yeah. Cam, unfortunately, we got to leave it right there. We appreciate you being here and your podcast, Bearing Arms. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks.
Right. I'd just like to point out, when you're asking me if it's okay to say on TV, find another barometer.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
real news
For real people.